thank you everybody for joining, and welcome to this special edition of the Product Expert series of webinars that we run here. So it's a series of webinars that we run. We have a bunch of past talks that have been recorded. It's a mixture of presentations and firesides. We have an amazing mix of experts who've joined us. They usually come in with their excellent insights with a focus on the content and the learning and the sharing. So today is going to be recorded, and it is going to be shared with you. So you're going to be able to catch up on this later as well. And you will have a chance to ask questions today as well. Now, today's is a special edition because we have a panel. Normally, we just have one expert and they're doing a presentation or a fireside, but we thought today we'd make it a little bit more chaotic and have a bunch of people, because I think it's important to have a well-rounded view of the topic of ADHD. So we'll dive into that in just a moment. But before we get too far, I wanted to just quickly talk a little bit about ProdPad, because ProdPad is the tool that we build. So it was originally a tool that was built by myself and my co-founder Simon when we were product managers ourselves. And we needed tools to do our own jobs. We needed something to keep track of the experiments that we were running to try to hit our business objectives and solve our customers' problems, and to keep tabs at all the ideas and feedback that made up our backlog. So building ProdPad gave us control and organization and transparency. And so it wasn't long before we shared it with other product people around us. And today it's used by thousands of teams around the world. So it's free to try. And we even have a sandbox mode where it has example product management data. So you can see how lean roadmaps, OKRs, experiments, and everything else all fits together in a product management space. And our team is made up of product people. So start a trial today and then get in touch and let us know your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Now, let's jump in and hear from our panelists. I've gathered a group of people here today. I'm going to call them my internet friends. These are people, actually, I've met Donna in person, but I haven't actually met everybody else. These are people that I've had a chance to chat with or converse with online or through Zoom windows and all that. It's wonderful to have them here, and I reached out to them because they all have ADHD like me and have all been willing to open up and chat about it, because I think it's something that is really important to share. Every time I talk to somebody about it, I find that I learn something about myself and somebody else learns something about themselves as well. And I want to start by having each person in the panel just briefly introduce themselves, and we'll kick off from there. Let's start with Toby.
Yeah, so I'm Toby. I'm product lead at a digital agency based in Newcastle called Hedgehog Lab. So I've got about 10 years experience in product across kind of various industries, sectors and stuff like that. Prior to becoming a product manager, I used to be a freelance music journalist, and I've had a pretty circuitous route into product and across all sorts of different things.
Excellent. I think we're going to find that's a trend. The roots in it's a product is pretty normal, and I think it's pretty normal for people with ADHD as well. All right, Najva, you want to talk to us about your story?
Oh, yes. So I am the head of product at Calm Company Fund. And what does product even do at a fund? That's a great question. We build a lot of internal platforms. Also, we built a whole operating system, and I work with a no-code team to do that. But this is actually the first time I've had the word product in my title. However, I was a fashion designer and had my own fashion line. So I learned physical product for 2.5 years and supply chains and design. And then I was head of digital for a media company where I was in charge of all of our websites and all of the UX and design and hiring all the agencies for that and making the scopes. So I'm sitting down with engineers and I'm trying to figure out why our site's not fast enough. So basically circuitous route into the title product, but actually probably worked on it for more than 10 years. Just in different formats and small spaces.
I love that. That's brilliant. Felipe, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. I'm Felipe Castro. I basically help organizations focus on outcomes. They use OKR to change how they work, shifting from delivering features to focusing on outcomes. I work a lot with product team for organizations, but I'm not a product person per se. And I was diagnosed with ADHD like 5 years ago. So I was 42.
Excellent. Welcome to the family.
Yeah.
Donna.
Hi, I'm Donna Lichaw, and I'm an executive coach. I work with unconventional leaders, and typically they're on the younger side, catapulting up into senior leadership very quickly, whether it be founders or executive leadership at a startup or some type of senior leadership position in a big tech company. And what I help people do is just be more of themselves rather than changing who they are and ultimately being the best leaders they can be. Probably half my clients have ADHD, and that's especially the founders who I work with. And that's how I first ended up on this journey, as I was trying to learn more about what I do that works best for them. I'm sure we'll talk about this, but yeah, so that's how I came here. Previous to executive coaching, I was working as a product strategy consultant, product leader. And previous to that, I was a filmmaker. So I also have that circuitous route. It's all the same to me. I still do the same thing I've been doing for 25 years. And I'm currently writing a book on what I call story-driven leadership. And that's how to see the story and what you want to accomplish, the story and who you are, and how to make that amazing. It's not actually about storytelling. And so apparently that's another ADHD thing of seeing patterns and things that people can't see and needing to explain it to them and be contrarian about it.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much all for joining. And to give some people some background about my own history, I fell into product management accidentally. Before that, I had dabbled in building some tech myself, just HTML, CSS. And before that, I'd done a little bit of graphic design. Before that, I tried my hand as publicity marketing type stuff. Tried to hack away at a bunch of different things and never quite fit in anywhere until I learned about this role product and realized it was a really great fit. And did product for a number of years before I fell into the world of founding something. I was a product manager who just ended up making something and needing to bust out of that and do something. It's, I think, something that we're seeing in common is how many different things people with ADHD get their hands into and carve their own path. And it sounds like that's the same for everybody here at the table. And I bet that's probably the same for people in the chat as well. If anybody here has interesting stories about their own paths, drop them in, the different paths that you've taken. I'm sure people would love to hear your past lives before product. Now, ADHD, it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, some people are more of the inattentive type, some are more of the hyperactive type, and it has a wide range of different symptoms. Personally, I was diagnosed with inattentive with a touch of the hyperactive. Where I was swaying. Like for you all, what symptoms characterize your ADHD the most?
For me, is attention deficit by far. Yeah. And by the way, has anyone in the panel here has been diagnosed as a kid, or you already were an adult?
I was as a kid. I never got I've never bothered to get like an adult diagnosis. So I'm just turned 44. So that was back in the early 1980s when I think ADHD was just becoming a recognized thing. Yeah. And it was very much the kind of diagnosis was your kids having too many E numbers, stop giving them Kiora and Bongo and stuff like that. My mum was like, it doesn't make any difference. So I think, and the kind of tendencies that I had as a kid have carried through everything that I've done since. And looking back at like my school days and stuff, I can actually totally see the kind of impact that ADHD had, but it wasn't really anything that anybody talked about or dealt with at the time.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you say that, because in the 80s, 90s and that sort of thing, I remember hearing about ADHD, but I pictured it as like Bart Simpson. And I was like, I don't relate to that. That's not what I'm like. But I remember somebody pointing out years later, this is after I was diagnosed, that somebody pointed out that all the Simpsons kids and Homer Simpson have ADHD, like Lisa Simpson. I'm like, oh God, I was Lisa. There was that hyper focus and that daydreaming and the completely different subset of symptoms that they didn't recognize. And I was diagnosed as an adult. I actually got diagnosed during the pandemic, as apparently half the planet, apparently. When did, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, I had an inkling as a child, but we didn't talk about mental health in my family. It's an immigrant family. That was not a thing. And then accommodated myself what I think is really cleverly. It still shows up in my work, how good I am at just designing a life that works for my brain without knowing what exactly my brain is. But then it all fell apart when I went to my first ever corporate job in my 30s. And I was like, oh no, I have to work 9 to 5 in a place and people see my face and I can't everything fell apart. And eventually I was like, I think it's time to look for help. And that was in 2019 when I made that decision. I got diagnosed 2 weeks before lockdown started.
Oh, wow.
So they were like, how
Nice
are your
work.
meds doing? And I was like, it's really hard. There's no controlled environment for me to be like,
Yeah.
is it my meds or is it the pandemic? Fine,
Oh,
figured it out.
That must have been bonkers. Felipe, when did you get diagnosed? You said 4 years ago?
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. And what was the tipping point? How did you know?
My therapist told me, you should probably look into that. And then I went to a psychiatrist and he diagnosed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And he also did the diagnosis, gave me a book. Read this, and if you feel like that, like you, and the book was 100% me, was daydreaming and always thinking of the clouds. Your head is always away.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And Donna, what about you?
As a kid, I was not diagnosed. I was one of those kids who, I always got told, why are you so smart? And why can't you live up to your potential?
Oh.
And I was the slacker who could never do anything, apparently, unless I put my mind to it. And then I would get straight A's, either or. But yeah, I think it was last year. I work with a lot of, especially founders with ADHD, but a lot of senior leaders, especially in the tech world, who have ADHD. And I was doing a bunch of research last holiday break around December. And after, I think I read about 10 books, spent the week reading 10 books on ADHD, just going down a rabbit hole. And at the end, I realized, hang on a second, like, that is quite the hyper focus I have here. And I just started to see myself in the stories, especially which one? Driven to Distraction, which I highly recommend. Anyone read. And that's when I realized I put 10 and 10 together and realized, okay, I ended up getting a diagnosis, but it wasn't even necessary. I think I told you, Janna, the psychiatrist and I had a good laugh about how I got my birthday wrong on the intake form. Like, do you want a diagnosis? So it doesn't even matter. I have ways to cope. I'm fine. But so it was last year after many decades of being hit over the head with it and not quite realizing.
Yeah, I totally hear that. With my own diagnosis, it didn't come to a head until 2020. Now, I'd previously followed some people on Twitter who were ADHD and they would talk about it. I'm like, oh, that's relatable, and didn't think anything of it until the lockdown happened. And before lockdown, my job was basically like run around and evangelize for the stuff I'm building and go to conferences and talk to people. And it was okay to be hyperactive and talkative and not fit to a schedule, and things that fell behind I would always blame on, well, it's a conference this week and I was traveling and it's jet lag. And when lockdown happened, I was like, oh, look at all the things I'll be able to do with all this extra time. I'm going to write that book, I'm going to do all this stuff, I'm going to be so focused. And I sat down at my desk and I was like, I'm not focused. So I was like, okay, I know, I'm going to be super good to my body. I'm going to get all my focus. I'm going to drink all the water, not drink any alcohol. Like, I'm going to really take care of my body. And that'll help me with my focus. And all that it did, it made me more energetic. So I'm like wheeling around the house like this, all the energy in the world, and still couldn't do a day's work. And that's when I was like, oh, I should talk to a doctor. And I did a couple forms, and it's painful because they make you do forms, and I messed up on the forms, but I was off the charts. And then they make you do more forms. And I ended up having to go private because they basically told me here in the UK that, because lockdown had happened, everyone was going to all the psychiatrists. It was a 2-year wait. And I went private, and within 3 appointments, it was bish, bash, bosh, you definitely have it. Here you go. But one of the tough things about being diagnosed as an adult, at least in Europe or at least in the UK, is that you have to prove that you had it as a child. So they make you look back on your childhood. So you have to get a parent or a guardian who knew you back then to share their side of it. So I was lucky. I could talk to my mom and she could share information about, did Janna tend to lose things? Oh God, yes. Was Janna like this? Oh God, yes. And helped give all the check marks on the right places in the form. And it was a 20-page form I did with my mom over the phone because she lives in Canada. Once we did that, it was okay. But not everyone has that. It's not easy to prove something sometimes 20, 30, 40 years after the fact in order to get your adult ADHD diagnosis. Now, for everyone who got your diagnosis, did things change? Did it make a difference? Did you learn things after your diagnosis?
Yeah, I think that one of the important things that I read a book from Dr. Barkley, who's one of the top doctors, researchers in HDHD. And one of the things that Dr. Barkley says is you have to own your ADHD, right? So you have to understand, hey, your brain is different and you have to own it. And unless you come to peace with that, hey, my brain is different, so you have to manage your day-to-day different, have to be different. So you have to take your meds and do some exercise and all the things that are good for ADHD. I think that was the most important lesson of all. I'm still very far away from actually doing all the things that I should, but the idea that you need to own it is important.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And yeah, I remember when we had a back and forth on Twitter when I first got diagnosed, and you mentioned yours, and you said it's important to remember that everyone's ADHD is different. And I took that to heart. I was like, well, what's mine like then? Because I can learn from other people who have it, but what does mine mean to me? And it took me quite some time to come to terms with that.
Yeah, that's another thing. The second thing I learned from the same book from Dr. Barkley is ADHD is like a bag of symptoms. So several different symptoms under the same label, but no one has all of them. So you have to understand which symptoms do you have. So I don't think any of us here have exactly the same symptoms. So they are all different. Yeah. And that's one of the things that's challenging with ADHD because
no, you're absolutely right. We're all part of the same family, but slightly different expressions of it.
You have different flavors of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other things that are all part of the same group as well, like autism and dyslexia and OCD. And there's all these other things that are interrelated that blend together. And it's really hard to separate them. I've got definitely a touch of dyslexia and possibly other things, not diagnosed, but obvious when I start looking at them.
Sure.
I think that's part of it, though. It's almost like it doesn't even matter because I similarly have all these quirks that for years were off. Like I can't read and talk at the same time out loud. And I'm a keynote speaker. You've seen me as I've spoken to thousands of people on stage.
People can do that?
Yeah. Wait, I was like, is that a thing?
I know.
People can read and talk out loud at the same time. I didn't know.
Yeah, basically I'm like trying to ignore that there's a chat window right now because I can't. But there are times when I wonder if that's mild dyslexia. I know I flip numbers all the time. I should not do my own bookkeeping. I still do, and I've paid for it many times over. But it's at some point it doesn't even matter. What matters is what's the challenge and how do you get over it? And what's the flip side of that? What is your brain spending its time doing if it can't pay attention to the order of numbers? What are you working on? And usually that's when the magic happens, I think, with people who think like us. It's like our brains are working on other things. And when you can embrace that, like Felipe said, that's been my biggest epiphany, is really owning your superpowers and owning your kryptonite and just being okay with it. And also being comfortable communicating that to people and letting them know, hey, you want me to read and talk out loud? No, thank you.
Yeah,
but I will do it in other ways.
That's absolutely fair. One of the things that I learned was if we want good notes, have somebody else take them, because I've got that dysgraphia thing where it's like, hey, I can't take notes and think at the same time. Like I can if I go very slowly, but otherwise no, it's just not my forte. Whereas many other things I'm good at, not that.
And I can't process without taking notes, which is what you can't see is I have a whiteboard desk. So I can't function without
I envy
the ability
you.
There you go.
Very good. Now, how do you think ADHD has shaped your career path? Because have any of you made either deliberate decisions based on knowing you have ADHD, or even maybe indeliberate decisions based on the traits that you think you've had?
I can go for it a little. I didn't know I had ADHD for a long time, but I think that sort of similarly, I thought I was just like quirky. And I was like, oh, I just have these like preferences or like these ways that where I didn't really analyze it too much, but I really optimized all of my work for flexibility. So I've been working remotely since forever. I never actually worked in an office outside of an internship that I had in college. And I just thought, yeah, that's because I like to travel, but I like my independence. No, I finally at like 32 was like, let me go to an office, and was like, oh, I can't do this. Is not, I hate it here. So I didn't realize that. And I decided to accommodate myself. And so I was a freelancer. I worked at the hours that made sense for me. But like I could work at midnight. No one was around. I could work whenever my brain worked. I was a digital nomad for a few years and just worked from Korea and worked forever. I think that kind of, again, I thought I was just like cool and independent and flexible, but I really didn't realize how much I just was actually foundationally giving myself what I needed to thrive in these work environments. Once I got my diagnosis, then I could just be like, this is not for me. But any possible time where I could build something and then hand off the like management and the details and the daily deadlines to someone else, I did whenever possible. First thing, I would always hire someone else to like the admin work. And I also optimized for never having to do repetitive work. Every job, everything. That's why I loved clients. I loved project. I loved novel, new things, which led into product, right? Because it's, but I don't want to work on one problem for years. I want to work on a problem and then go to the next one, go to the next one.
Yeah.
So that was the journey was very much allowed myself to do it. But I think, to be candid, my earning potential suffered by not ever going to an office in my 20s. And not in a bad way. I had a great life, but I didn't go down that typical path.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I ended up choosing particular paths that worked for my style of working in startup environments instead of corporate environments because I could have certain amounts of flexibility. Choosing to work for myself quite young because I realized that, hey, I could run it my own way. I could work my own hours. The first versions of ProdPad were built at 2 a.m. and that's when I got up. Like it was just the most bonker hours to work with whatever suited me. And there's always that sense of novelty. There's always something new to do. And I was trying to, I think, manufacture that novelty for myself. I think there's probably no mistake that as an ADHD person, I created a dateless roadmap, a way of working that didn't structure the way that mapping worked at the time. So I think I shaped the way that I was working around how my brain worked.
There's a question on Q&A around sharing that you have HDD at work.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's prejudice against HDD? Do you see that? Donna, you're saying yes. Do you see that?
I'm going to say yes. And let me see if I can sort my thoughts out about this. Because I haven't even really publicly shared my diagnosis until right now. Hi,
so you have now. Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
There we
welcome.
go.
Thank you for sharing.
So I guess we're all closeted until today, right? So
in a way. So here's where I've
right.
been on the fence. And it's only been about under a year for me. Here's where I'm on the fence, which is I think that with certain diagnoses, all diagnoses, it opens up the possibility of people writing your story for you. So they hear you have ADHD, oh, you're careless, oh, you're impulsive, oh, you're this, you're that. And I've seen on the flip side also people, so I work with people in senior leadership positions. So half them have ADHD. The other half, they work with people who are on different spectrums. And so there's a lot of sometimes, oh, they can't do that because they have ADHD. It's like, no, let them tell you what they can and can't do and have a dialogue with them. Or one time I had my therapist remind me that I'm impulsive and that's why I did something. It's actually, I'm not impulsive. I'm the opposite of impulsive. I think about something for years before I do it. And I had to tell her that. And I found that annoying that she, for an instance, she doesn't usually do this, but for an instance, she told me what I was based on what a textbook said. I think I'm a little on the fence. And yes, it is like being in the closet where it's pretty ridiculous that, because I'm queer also. And it's like, I've been for decades out about that. And it's insane that I'm not totally out about this yet, but yeah, I just don't want people to assume things, to judge. I know to my business partner, I came out last year and I was terrified because I was like, oh my God, she's going to think I'm a flake and careless. And every time I tell her, hey, will you take care of the scheduling? Hey, will you take care of the emails? Hey, I'll take care of this. I'm afraid she's going to think I'm lazy. I'm pawning things off on her. But we ended up having a great dialogue on like, hey, this is what I can do. This is what you can do. How do we best work together? I don't know. I think, and of course, I forgot what the actual question was. But no, I'm not actually public about it, but I want to be. I think it's important. I think it's so important. And in tech, most of us honestly are on some kind of spectrum or another. It's just so important.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Toby, you're pretty prolific on Twitter. Do you ever mention yours? Do you tell anybody about yours?
Yeah, it's something that I talk about, but it's not something that's ever been kind of something that I've hidden or kept secret. I think in terms of work, I have definitely carved out a path that suited the way I thought about things and the type of work that I wanted to do. So when I worked in bigger sort of corporate organizations, I ended up carving out a very sort of individual role doing like strategy kind of stuff and big picture thinking kind of work, like on my own, and just creating roles, writing my own job specs for things. But I think I definitely felt the same sort of feeling I had at school in bigger, larger, more corporate organizations, which is, why can't you do these things? You're really good at this thing. What about this? You've got a great vision for this piece of work. Why can't you figure out how to execute it? And I think as I've moved into more startup sized companies and more kind of more people oriented organizations, it's become less of a thing. I think I've learned to live with it and work with it, and it's never been a secret or anything I've wanted to talk about with people.
Yeah. On my side, I got my diagnosis the next day. I told my team. My thinking with that was, I've got to be a leader to them, and I could help destigmatize it for other people. And as soon as I did it, a few other people, actually a couple other people on the team, came out and said that they also either suspected or definite ADHD. And I'm like, cool, excellent. It's not a surprise in some cases. And let's see how we can make sure that this all works for you. But also, it allowed me to have them help me with various things. So it was like, actually, here's what I'm good at, and here's what I'm not good at. Now, you all knew that already because you've seen me working for years, but here's why I'm not good at this stuff, and here's what I'm going to do about it. And one of the first things I did when I got diagnosed was I promoted somebody who was in our team, had been working with me for years, and I made her my chief of staff, and basically to help handle the executive part around some line management stuff and handling like OKR championship and management of the process. A lot of that process stuff that should be a breeze for a typical founder CEO, but wasn't necessarily the best use of my time or skills. And it's made a huge difference to be able to lean on my team in that way and say, here's what you're really good at, and here's what I'm really good at. Let's divide this up and make sure we can do that. And then the day afterwards, I announced it on Twitter because I'm pretty much open with a lot of things. I just wanted to see what would happen. And I just wanted to see, are there any other product people out there? And turns out there were like literally hundreds of other people out there. And this sort of gave me the idea like, oh, ADHD in product is pretty prevalent. And the fact that there's like several hundred people signed up for this today, listening in, I think it is pretty rampant amongst the product world. Yeah, I think I end up finding my people in a roundabout way.
The estimate is that 10% of the population has ADHD at some level. So it is pretty common, just like diabetes, the same level of prevalence in the population. So
yeah.
10% is a lot.
I think it's tech. In tech, it's even higher.
I was going to say, I wonder what percent in tech and in founders and in product people and that sort of thing.
50% of founders. I think, and again, don't quote me on that. So my numbers, but no, it's something. And I know for me, my anecdotal is 50% of the founders I work with. Yeah. Absolutely. And 50% of all the senior leaders and executives I work with.
Yeah.
Very common.
So we do something. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
We do something at our company that I love, and it's user manuals when you join the team. And it gives everybody an opportunity to share like how they work, how they receive feedback, some things that helps them work well, some things that they struggle with. And this sort of answers the question that someone put in the chat. It's coming. And this team was the first team I ever joined after my diagnosis. So it was really fun. And I was able to get ahead of some things by saying, hey, my working memory is actually in the lowest 10% of the population for my thing. Like, I'm really like super smart software, broken hardware.
I love that. I'm gonna borrow that.
Actual quote is, my brain is cutting edge software running on a Mac desktop from 1994. So sometimes it just can't process very quickly inside itself. So I like wrote out a lot of things that were important to me, like having no meetings days, everything being in my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, I'll miss it. I can't take notes and listen at the same time. So either we need to talk about that if that's something that needs to happen in a meeting. I love when you leave me looms because I can listen to it at 2x speed, which is the speed of my brain. I also have a thing which might be that stutter thing that's in I wrote that, hey, if I make a face in a meeting that looks like I want to say something, I'm not trying to interrupt you. That's me swallowing wanting to interrupt you. I can't change my face, but please know that if I don't unmute myself, you'll see I mute myself regularly. It's so I don't blurt things out. It's a habit on meetings. If I unmute, it's because I have something to say. But for the most part, I can't help looking like I want to say something. But if you start and like, Najva, you look like you have something to say. No, I swear, I just always have something to say. It's fine. Let it go. I'm not rude. I can't help it. But just doing that, because it's like, to other people, when you make a face or react in certain ways, it's, oh, they need to say something. So like having these little bits and tells is super helpful. I also am like, if I Slack you in the middle of the night, that doesn't mean I expect other people to be working. It's just that sometimes I took a nap at 3 p.m. because my brain wasn't working. And then I'm going to send you a bunch of emails in the middle of the night. That's the kind of stuff where I think if you did it without explanation, that could show up in your feedback as how you can improve. But if you get ahead of it, it's, oh, this is what I do. And this is why it's happening. And if it's not working for you, I'm very open and we can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have that face too, by the way. I know that one. I love that. And so what sort of coping mechanisms do we all have here to help us with that? I use schedule send. Like I have thoughts in the middle of the night and I will schedule them and go, okay, make sure that this goes out at 8 in the morning and not at 3 in the morning or whatever else. What else are we all using here?
One thing that I learned recently is that it's very common for people with ADHD to changing context switching all the time, the same day, so the same morning. It's very tiresome, right? Yeah. So for example, you're doing something for work and then you have to schedule your dentist, and then you do this. So context switching is hard for humans, but for ADHD it's way harder. So I've tried some of those techniques where you scaffolding, where you do time blocking your schedule, but they're completely different topics, and it was terrible. I suffered for a week because I kept, and it's different tasks. So I have to do, okay. So if it's personal stuff, it's a whole afternoon. Okay, I'm doing personal stuff, either for my house or health or whatever. So I need longer blocks of around the same topic, because context switching, it's really hard. If it's different areas of my life, it's like, so if I'm dealing with my daughters and dealing with this, has to be contained. At least for me, when I heard that in a podcast, I said, that explains everything. So trying to make those blocks really helps.
And it's such a curse that we're not good at context switching, and yet we flip from one thing to the next so quickly. Anybody following this conversation is probably, what are they talking about now? Apologies for anybody trying to follow this conversation, but
but it's you're still in the same topic. Yeah, what's hard for me is when you change topics. When you, we talk about HED, and now I'm talking about, now I have to, I don't know, my daughter's school, and then now I have to do this, and then I have to go back to a client, and then do, so
someone talked about it as different, like almost like different frames of reference. So it's totally fine to, it's context switching, but it's a little different than that, right? They were like, I started working in an agency, and when I had to switch between clients multiple times in the day, it sucked, but I could do lots of things for one client. There are different kinds of things, but as long as it's all like, I'm going deep on something, then you can do a really good job. And that's absolutely true. If it's a personal afternoon, it's a personal afternoon. I can do all of my personal chores. I can't do anything else.
Yeah. One of the things that I found has helped me the most is limiting my work in progress, which is concept from Kanban, and I don't use a Kanban board or anything like that. I've tried all the task managers, and digital task managers just don't work for me because it's one of those things where I create the tasks and then I forget them. One of the big traits of ADHD that a lot of people suffer from is the out of sight, out of mind. So I make a task, it's out of sight, I've forgotten about it. So what I do, I carry around, and it started off as a bullet journal, but now it's quite literally a filofax that I've customized. And on one side of the page, I have my schedule, which I literally make myself handwrite, and then my to-do list. And it's the forcing of the writing out of the to-do list and making yourself like, each task has to be broken down into a one-liner. So it has to be broken down into do this thing, like it's the small piece. And you can only have so many tasks on the page, and you can physically see yourself checking them off. And if you miss one, you have to write it out again the next day. And so it's a bit of a punishment to miss them. And so this is the one thing that I've actually found has kept me on track and on task with things, and like prevents me from just going, oh, I made my task list and now I'm going to go wallpaper the cat or do literally anything else that I was trying to avoid at that point in time.
Oh, just if you're not familiar, for anyone in the chat, the joke is that ADHD people just love to make lists. We just love
make lists. Yeah. As to finish them, that's a whole other story. And so, yeah, having it physically there and having it as part of a page that I have to flip over, and I can't move my little marker to the next day until I've done that at the end of the day. Some days it's absolutely painful, but it's like I have to make myself do it. And yeah, it comes back to the point that was made earlier around Felipe, wasn't it you who said owning your ADHD, saying This is what you have to work with it. You have to make it work at some point. But yeah, it started off as a bullet journal, and I just added to it and removed from it until it turned into something that worked for me.
I hate bullet journals.
Why do you hate bullet journals?
I cannot be bothered. Yeah. It's just too much process. But what's worked for me, and I have friends it doesn't work for, but I have a Trello board. That I had lived my whole life in Trello.
We can see from your background that you like those.
When I need to go external, I go external. That's how my book started. It's completely changed since then, but I keep that up there just to, I don't know why I keep that. Probably because I can't be bothered to take it down 6 months old, but I go external when I need to. I can't do remote collaboration very easily. I do it because I have to, but yeah, I don't love collaborative boards. I prefer to do sticky notes, but Trello works for me, but I make sure that I purge it every year. So every January, I archive it and I create a whole new Trello board. And I figure if anything was important enough from the previous year, it'll pop itself back up because that's how my brain works, and it'll nag me until I get it on there. And then I just make sure I have a place for all things to go. Either it was Evernote for years, but I cannot use that anymore as the software has just gotten weird. So I've been trying Apple Notes and it's fine, but I need a place for the thoughts to go, and then a place for all the things to do to go. And that goes in Trello, and it seems to work well. Excellent. But not for everybody, which is important.
Excellent. All right. So everyone else, other tools, because this is actually a question from somebody. What tools have you guys found to complement the ways that your brains work?
I think that one of the things that I've learned is that you have to shape your environment. And if you're going to work, your phone has to be in another room. It's not right. You sometimes I need to turn down the Wi-Fi. Okay, I need to write. I'll shut down the Wi-Fi, set up a timer, and that's it. But whenever I'm writing or doing any type of deep work, my phone is in another room.
Yeah.
At least for me, it's crucial.
And Toby, I think you're about
I think mine's pretty similar in that I use Todoist for pretty much everything. I went through a period of getting really massively hyper obsessed with productivity systems and ended up spending all my time working on building stuff in Todoist and Evernote instead of actually doing any real work. And what works for me is having a concise list of a limited number of things that are today, this week, next week, later, someday maybe, and that just throwing stuff onto those lists. But it's always 5 to 10 things in a day. That's about how much I can handle in terms of a task list. And then I still use Evernote, even though it's messy and horrible, just to throw web clips and ideas and all the other stuff that I've thought about or think I want to remember that I'll never look at again into there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love Asana. which we use for the team, because I can reorder my stuff. I make my own private board always, and then reorder all of my things the way I need to. But I think I would say honestly more important than the tool that I use, because you can, any tool that's like flexible, or you can change the tasks to be a calendar or a board or whatever that works for your brain, it's strategies. So what I heard a lot of here is like limited numbers of things. Eisenhower matrix is also great for that. Like I use essentially anything that gives me help to prioritize. Some people do the 3-2-1, like one big thing, 2 small things, whatever it is, to get it so that it whittles down to just a handful of small tasks each day. And I know which one is the most important. And a lot of times I need a lot of support figuring out which one is most important. But once I'm there, it's good. Let me add them. This is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But also for that, noise canceling headphones, playlists of different kinds of music that really help with focus. I use a lot of like alpha wave music. It's really boring. Brain.
Yeah.
Like anything that can help me block things out. Essentially, I live on do not disturb mode. I do keep my phone here, but I'm never interrupted ever if I don't want to be, except for having a dog. Dogs do interrupt.
Oh, yes.
I can't do not disturb pets. And
I've turned off all the notifications on my phone. I can't be trusted with my phone. The focus mode on your phone, I've got it set up so it's on 24 hours a day. And it only allows me to look at any of my social apps or any of the apps that consume my attention. I can only look at them for 5 minutes at a time. So if I press on the Twitter button, it says, "Ooh, it's focus mode time," any time of day. Do you want to use this? You can have 5 minutes. And I have to say yes. And after 4 minutes, it goes gray. And after a minute, it just closes. And I'm like, "Ooh, okay." And if I want to use it more, I can say, okay, a little bit more. But I have to make that decision, because otherwise I'll just get lost in the Twitter doom scrolling, and it's just not good. So yeah, some of those tools to just limit digital distraction is important.
Most of these tactics are making me anxious just thinking about them, like noise canceling headphones or no noise or pets. Like my dog is here because it calms me down.
Your dog is chill, clearly.
Yes, he is. He is chill,
Yeah.
which helps. But it's so important to know what works for you, because I've found all these weird quirks that I can leverage instead, which is, so for example, apparently I read really fast if I take every 10 minutes or so a tiny little phone break, and then I pop right back in after 30 seconds. It's really weird, but I discovered that recently, and it's so counter to what you would think. Put the phone away, sit and read a book. But apparently if I read for more than 20 minutes, I just lose my focus. That's like a weird thing. But then also, what are the other things? The big thing I found work for me is it's not just the tools, but it's having a focus, big picture focus. If I don't have a big picture focus, purpose, so focus, goals, and how I'm going to know I got there, and like purpose and reason behind it and values that bolster it, I cannot function. And we talked about this earlier. I've had an OKR thread going with one of my good friends, Christina Woodkey, for many years now. And the OKRs, I hate OKRs. I botch them every time. Most of my clients, they panic if you say OKR, and they're like, "Oh, fuck, more, it's OKR season, this." But it's the focus that really works. So if I know what my focus is for the year, I'll do it. And if I know what the focus is for the quarter, I go do it. And I'm like that slacker who shows up I literally did it this morning. It's the end of the quarter and I showed up. I'm like, cool. Yeah. Awesome quarter. Like I did not keep anything up until this morning. I'm like, how did I do this quarter? Ooh, great. Awesome. But I knew what my focus was and I had it in the back of my mind the entire time. I can't function without the big picture narrative there. It can't work.
Yeah. And Felipe, you're a OKRs trainer. What's your take on OKRs and how they work with the ADHD brain?
The thing is that some people like to use OKRs for personal OKRs, setting OKR for personal life. And the thing is that I think we were chatting before the webinar, and Donna said she likes to break all the rules with OKRs when she's setting her own.
Another ADHD trait, apparently. Needing to break all the rules all the time.
Yeah. And that's what I see when you use personal OKRs, because it's very hard to quantify. It's very hard to measure it. So my first opinion is that OKRs, they don't fit really nicely into personal life because we don't have metrics for everything. And I don't personally, I don't want to have metrics in every part of my life. So I think that the big challenge is that you can use some of the concepts of OKR, like having focus. But Donna says, hey, I have focus. I understand what I have to achieve, the most important things in the quarter. That's useful. And that's, you can say, hey, OKR has that. But the measurable part of OKR is really hard to do in your personal life. So we end up with really sucky OKRs, things that don't look at OKRs at all. So why are you calling it OKR? Just take what works and focus on the thing, and don't call them OKRs. It's just, because again, it's most of the things in your personal life don't have metrics. How do you measure if you're happy or talking to your family and friends like you want to? Or so in business, it's way easier to have metrics, right?
So my life is my business. I am a solo business owner. I work with other people. I have contractors, but I am a primary business owner. So I think for us, the line is fuzzier, and it definitely,
definitely.
I agree with you. It's the focus. It's the focus. I've done some things with my kids. Hey, this quarter, I really want to work on that. I don't tell them this, but when I'm working on something, it's the focus that helps. Actually, this is something I learned from, so I'm a Gestalt executive coach, which means I was trained by Gestalt therapists and Gestalt coaches. And so there's a lot of touchy-feeliness with what I do with my clients. And I've had to force myself to learn how to live like that as well, because I'm a very analytical person. And I like, even though I flip numbers, my nickname in high school was Physics Wizard, and I was a calculus tutor. I'm obsessed with numbers and systems. But what I think is key is, like, measurements don't always have to be numbers. We can measure things with how we feel. And I think for people like us, that's so essential, because our spidey senses can tell us when something is working or not. And we have to be attuned to that so that we can advocate for our personal OSs or advocate for our quirks or our superpowers. So all of this is so important. But as soon as we get into like analytical automatons, that's one of my kryptonites, and I will spiral and need to get out of that. So I agree with you.
Yeah, that totally makes sense for a personal life. But if you say to people that, no, your OKRs can be touchy-feely, and that's probably a terrible idea for an organization as a whole. It can be great for your personal life and you as a leader and executive. But if an organization starts using all things that are qualitative in their OKRs, it loses the whole point of using OKRs. So I think that things are very different from personal life to business, and you have to understand the tool is for measurable things. That's the whole point, is to help you get more data and be more data informed decisions. That's the whole point of using OKR. Yeah. And not every single problem under the sun requires measurement. So the tool has a specific use.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing on that. And there's a couple actually really good questions in here that I want to get to before we go, which is, this starts getting pretty chunky. So do any of you have any experience with rejection sensitivity dysphoria? I'm not sure if you're all aware of that. It's something that often goes hand in hand with ADHD. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria, are also known as RSD. It's one of the dark sides of ADHD, which is that sense a sense of shame that goes with times that you feel like you've done something wrong, where you've embarrassed yourself or you've let somebody down. And it comes out in the times that you come back with you're embarrassed about something years and years later, or you feel like you wronged somebody because you said the wrong thing and now they must hate you forever, or had that perfect comeback, but you remembered it 2 minutes too late and you're still thinking about it 20 minutes later. It's this sense that just follows you around and you just don't let it go. Turns out, not everyone feels that way. Some people just apparently move on and get over it. I have RSD. I have hangups over things that I did wrong when I was a child. And I'm like, why won't I just let this go? And you know what? I didn't realize RSD was a thing until I looked up ADHD and into some of the symptoms of it. I was like, this explains so many of my problems. Turns out, like, I don't have to feel this shame. I can actually just let go of this stuff, because it's not normal to feel terrible over a lost friendship or a forgotten birthday or a thing that I screwed up and did something silly years ago. How about you, Lot? Do you have any experience with it you could share? You don't have to if it's a tough one.
Go, or if someone else, maybe Toby, who has you look like you maybe had something to say.
It's not something I've thought about or realized. This is the first time I've really seen this as a thing, but last night I was thinking about the time that I bought my mum a rubbish Christmas present 15 years ago. So I think that it definitely is a thing that I've never really thought about. But yeah.
A couple
So-
people in the chat have
yeah.
a couple points here. Like Deborah says, it's a part of emotional dysregulation and how we can hyper focus on very negative feelings. Yeah, I feel that. And actually, somebody pointed out, it's actually just a comment to hosts and panelists, that they can't watch cringe humor. I can't watch cringe humor. It makes me want to crawl out of my skin. And somebody just pointed out that they have the same problem. Yep. Tiffany said that they associate it with perfectionist tendencies. Which, yeah, that's something that goes along with ADHD. Like, it was a time when I was imperfect. There's been a lot of those. Oof.
Say I have, for the first time in my life, I think, not the first time, but like the dynamic at work that I have is really healthy. We have a healthy team culture, and the RSD gets a lot better when you have a manager who can tell you when you've self-flagellated enough about a mistake that you've made. Because I made a mistake a few weeks ago, and I came in and I was like, here's my plan to apologize to everyone for the mistake that I made. Like, and he's okay. It seems like you've already really taken responsibility. These things happen. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, just move on. It's fine. Yeah.
Having people around you who can check that in a kind but firm boundaries way, it's just so nice. It's rare, I will say, but it is nice. Not, I didn't have to say I have rejection. He just was like, listen, let's just, yes, you apologized to him, you took responsibility, I see that, and we can go forth now into the next thing. You do a lot of good. Let's focus on the stuff that you did well. And one of the things that happens with ADHD is you can get really into your head. So I don't know if that's a coworker, a colleague, a manager, someone in your working life that you can be honest about where you're spiraling about, and they won't judge you, and they can give you like is it normal to spiral about this, or am I actually doing a good job and I'm just being too hard on myself? I can't tell that inside my own head. Sometimes I need someone else I can trust to have some perspective for me.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. And do we have time for one more question? Maybe?
Sure. Yeah,
All right.
sure.
So there's
time.
one more in here, which was really interesting from Frank. So during interviews, when asked, what's your biggest weakness? And he says that he tends to bring up that he's not the most organized person. Fair. That's probably something that many of us share here. So what's the best way to answer the weakness part without impacting you negatively? Or rather, how do you position ADHD so that you can, your traits really, so that you can succeed in the workplace, in interviews and that sort of thing? Any tips?
I think that when people ask that question, they're looking for what's your approach to dealing with your weaknesses, right? That's what they want to learn. Is this person mature enough that knows what he or she is good at and bad at and how to deal with it? So I think that what you just said about, I hired a chief of staff and I did this and this and this, it's a great example of, hey, how do you deal with whatever weakness you have? So I think just saying, I'm not a very organized person is not a complete answer. You have to, what do you do with that? You have to own it, whatever weakness you have to own it and shape the way you work, or have coworkers that help you, or teams, or I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's a good way to frame it. I like that.
I think it's about framing it in terms of not weaknesses and kind of areas for development. This isn't a thing that I can develop and improve. It is a thing that I cannot do, but this is my strategy for making sure that it doesn't affect the work that I'm doing and the job that I'm able to do.
I don't like that question at all. I think I would, and it would be hard for me to conceal my
Nice.
dislike of it, but I would just flip it, which is any weakness. It's again, I really struggle with details. I should not be handling details. Yet I'm very attuned. I can measure things to a pixel, but like I shouldn't be doing that. But I'm a big picture thinker. My superpowers are patterns, connections, seeing things that others can't see. And so who cares about the weakness? It's focus on what's working. You're a big picture thinker, great. But yes, I think I agree with Felipe there, which is I make sure I always hire someone to handle the details, or I can outsource it, or I can not have to ever worry about details.
And it's a good chance to figure out if it's a good fit for you as well. On that note, we're running low on time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. Now, I do recognize that there were some questions outstanding, and the chat has been absolutely on fire. In the meantime, I want to say thank you so much to everyone here in the chat getting involved, and of course, our panelists here today. So everyone say a big thanks to Donna, Felipe, Toby, and Najva for sharing their stories and sharing their experience and expertise. I know this hasn't been the most conventional topic, but I think it has been eye-opening and very useful for everyone all around. So once again, thank you all. Take care and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.